welcome back to UpSurge, where the surge is always up. Joining me now, I have Elder Takudzwa. He is a member at Meadowvale Seventh-day Adventist Church, currently on his way to graduating from paralegal studies, and he shared with me recently, before we started, that he just finished writing a book. So tell us a little bit more about yourself, and we'll head into some questions.
Well, thank you for the introduction. My name is Takudzwa. She expressed I was born in Zimbabwe, as many of you know, and came to Canada about 9 years ago. No, 10 years ago. I think. Also like 11. Time has passed.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm just happy to be here with the surge, I guess. And yeah, let's get into it.
Awesome. We're super excited to have you. So my first question is, I remember when you came to church. What year was that?
That was 2014.
Oh my goodness.
2014.
Time really flies. 2014. So
Yes.
you basically came in off the street and you're just like, I want to be baptized. So where did that come from? Did your parents play any part in getting you to this extreme transition?
Wow, like that's a question. I feel like like prior to that, I was raised in a Methodist setting. I used to go to church every Sunday growing up with my grandma, to our local Methodist church, and so like I guess what you call the Christian values and the Christian been be there. Like at a time when we immigrated over to Canada, like we sort of stopped going to church for a little while, but the keen interest in the Bible started way back, and then on an early age. Like I remember I was 11 when I started going into like books like Revelation, just like just reading on and trying to find out what is it about this book that has like sort of this mystical.
The scary book.
Yeah, like like everybody was finding it scary, but like the more I read into it, I'm like, wow, like this is a revelation of who God is.
Yeah.
And honestly, like that's when it started. And when I came over here, like I said, just began like going through some things I believe that God was taking me through purposefully, in order to like bring me to the point where I am right now.
Yeah.
So. The point where I got to walk over to the church, that has been like it's a testimony on its own, because I feel like there were things that led up to that point. I remember like that summer before that, I was partying, all sorts of things.
Yeah.
I threw a party in my parents' house like without them knowing. So like it's just things that just led up to that point until. Like, I just sat down and figured, you know what, enough is enough. I just can't continue going on this road anymore.
Yeah.
It's just going to lead nowhere. So I started, like, reading my Bible, like, thoroughly. I started finding out things like the Sabbath, like a lot of these things that I never knew about. And, like, I made the decision to like stop with the partying, stop with like all of that, because it wasn't leading anywhere.
Yeah.
And decided to come to like church. I Googled the nearest church, and lo and behold, there's one right across from the street.
Right there, 2-minute walk, right?
Yeah.
That's crazy. So could you tell us a little bit more, because you're the only person in your household who is Seventh-day Adventist, coming to church on Sabbath. So can you tell us a little bit about that experience and how that looks in your home?
Yeah, like I feel like it's a dynamic. Like you gotta, like I have to I have to handle it like very smart, because I remember like my parents, like they're not Seventh-day Adventists, but I remember the first days I kind of took like an extreme approach to this whole thing.
Yeah.
And was trying to reason with my dad all the time, like, Dad, look, like the Sabbath is here, it says this in the Bible, why are we not doing it?
Yeah.
But all it was causing was just friction in the house, you know what I'm saying? So I had to find like a balance of how do I remain respectful to my parents? How do I honor my father and my mother?
Yeah.
And at the same time, how do I serve God?
Absolutely.
How do I, like go about this whole thing?
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. So
Absolutely.
it can be, I can imagine, just challenging. So what are some strategies you put in place to cope with these strategies, or to cope with the stress, or to cope with these challenges?
Yeah, like that's an interesting question too,
Mhm.
because I feel like it's a learning curve.
Yeah.
Like it's a learning process. Every day, like I'm learning new things about how to navigate this whole thing. I would say this, like the first days they're really tough. Like
Mhm.
had a lot of like arguments with my parents, a lot of things that were like just going wrong left, right, and center.
Yeah.
And I had to learn to be humble
Mhm.
and recognize that first of all I'm living under their roof.
Yeah.
um, this is still their house,
Mhm.
and even though I would like for them to come to know like about the Sabbath and all these things, I still have to
Mhm.
be respectful.
Absolutely.
And there were times when even like I would tell my mom or my dad, like, listen, it's a Sabbath, I'm not doing no chores, like going through that whole thing.
Yeah.
But it just caused like friction in the house.
Yeah.
So I had to find a way to be able to be respectful with my parents.
Mhm.
So that meant like maybe I would do my chores way before like
Yeah.
Sabbath comes, or
Absolutely.
whatever it is. I would help out in every capacity that I can in order to like mitigate.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, I know you have a little sister. So
Yes.
tell me about sharing what you've learned since joining Meadowvale. How do you communicate that to your little sister?
Put me on the spot. Right?
I know, but.
Basically, like what, she has a lot of questions, and
Mhm.
she's a bright girl.
Yeah.
She's a little bright girl, and she always asks like the deepest of questions. And sometimes I find myself, I'm like, wow, like it's unbelievable.
Yeah.
But I found out the way that I can get her, like get to her. It's gonna be, of course, gonna be over time.
Mhm.
But one of the things that we love to do is we love to celebrate the sunset every single day. Like she comes up to my room or whatever it is, I go find her, and then we celebrate the
That's
sunset.
awesome.
Like we're like the sunset, and we sing our little song. So I take that time sometimes to tell her about God,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
God created the sun, He
Mhm.
created the stars, He created the moon. Like we have to we have to have a relationship with God.
Absolutely.
So at times she prays,
Mhm.
and one of her her prayers are some of the sweetest prayers I've heard. And I'm like, what, God loves the prayers of little children, because
Absolutely.
we pray together, and when she prays, she's very sincere,
Mhm.
and she's just learning as she goes. So
Yeah.
I'm just glad to be just like a little small part of that whole journey. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
That's amazing. That's amazing. She's lucky to have a brother to guide her and
Yeah.
show her the way and teach her to
Mhm.
build a relationship with God.
Absolutely.
So you talked a little bit about partying and so on before
Right.
actually finding Meadowvale and finding this faith.
Right.
So can you talk a little bit about how your relationships have changed with your friends?
Ah, like it was a moment I realized who your friends are and who's really not your friends.
Yeah.
Because when you're going like a different path, like first of all your interests and the things that you talk about, like the maturity levels and
Yeah.
all of those things, it's just night and day. So
Mhm.
it's hard even to have a conversation, because out here they're talking about, I did this at the club last night, or I
Yeah.
did this, I did that.
Yeah.
And then you're like, man,
It's just not
like,
appealing to you
it's
anymore.
not to say it's not it's not appealing,
Mhm.
because it's still tempting.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong,
Mhm.
but it's just like I'm at a different stage in my life now.
Yeah.
I feel like those things that happened like helped me to learn
Yeah.
certain lessons that I learned,
Mhm.
and I'm here now, and looking back at it, I'm like, should I have taken a different course, or is this the right course? And I always say, you know what, the friends that I have now,
Mhm.
it lets me know that I have taken the right course.
Absolutely.
Because like even one of my best buddies, Brandon, I still talk to him like all the time. Like
Yeah.
we still hang out when we get a chance to,
Mhm.
and I'm like looking at him like this is a real friend of mine, because
Yeah.
despite the change that I went through in my life, he still understands me on a level. We
Yeah.
still have, funny conversations, sometimes
Mhm.
silly conversations, but we have mature conversations as well.
Yeah.
And like it's been a burden on my heart to like sort of share my faith with my friends as well. Like I'm
Yeah.
like, God, teach me how I can be able to
Mhm.
tell these guys about you,
Yeah.
in whatever way possible.
Have you
Um,
embarked on that challenge? Have you?
Still learning.
Okay.
Still learning on
That's
how to do
fair.
it. And you know what? I'm not ashamed to say I'm still learning.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you know what? The moment will come that I'll be able to do it. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Absolutely. Can you kind of tell us about? I don't want to pry too much, but any friendships that have kind of fallen away since you've changed your life? Anything that you've had to really let go?
Man, like you know what? Like it's not to say like, because like I had a core group of friends that I called friends.
Yeah.
Right? And so that's my friend Brandon, of course, my friend Francis. Those guys are still true to me,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But like what I thought were friends,
Yeah.
before all of this, like, and, even through like the parties, these are the guys who would encourage me to throw a party at my parents' house without them knowing,
Yeah.
right? And
Mhm.
then I later found out that, somebody tried to steal something in my parents' room. Like, it's just like all those things that were happening, I thought those were my friends.
Yeah.
Because I was still in high school, I was still all going through all of these things. And it just, with time and like, again, with the growing up,
Yeah.
like I have phased that out of my life.
Mhm.
And it's not to say I have like done it, but like it's just like we no longer run in the same lanes anymore.
Yeah.
You know what I'm
Absolutely.
saying? So
It kind of just naturally fell away.
it just fell away.
Okay.
It just fell away. Yeah.
All right.
Mhm.
Thank you for sharing all of
Absolutely.
that.
Absolutely.
So I'm gonna jump gears here a little bit. So we
Mhm.
talked a little bit at the beginning about you writing a book. So tell me about that. That was a huge shock to me. I didn't know you were writing a book.
Yeah. So it just started as something that I just put my mind to.
Mhm.
Like I was nervous going into it.
But what said write a book? Like write an essay, write an article, do
Yeah.
a blog. But why a book?
I felt like I needed to tell my story from
Mhm.
my perspective, like a very raw and very real story.
Yeah.
About
And the title of your book.
the title is called "Leaving the Boy Chasing the Man."
Mhm.
Like I feel like throughout somebody who's aspiring to be a man, like you go through like a transitional phase when you're still like between the boy and between the man. There's like a lot that goes on, sorry,
Yeah.
in that transitional period.
Mhm.
And then when you go through those things, like some of those decisions are life changing.
Yeah.
Some of those decisions will lead you to become a good man. Some of them will lead you to become a bad man. But
Mhm.
it's like navigating that whole like transition, that threshold.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of boys out there, like, they don't have, like, the guidance. They don't have the, like, the ability to navigate that,
Yeah.
right? So who's going to tell them, do this or do that?
Mhm.
I remember one of my, I wouldn't say my friends, but, like, acquaintance, like, I used to, like, hang out with them. They used to come to our house. I used to go to their house. Like, in 2017, I found out that, like, he shot somebody.
Wow.
Right, like, and he got arrested, and now he's in, like, he's in jail, like,
Mhm.
on, like, charges of first-degree murder, like.
Wow.
And I'm just like, wow, like, just how quickly things can change. So
Absolutely.
a lot can happen, and he was only 19,
Wow.
right? So a lot can happen between that transitional period, that if you don't take the right steps, you're gonna end up somewhere else.
Absolutely.
So I felt the need to write a book from my perspective about the things that I've gone through that period, and also, like, in the hopes that somebody out there who's gonna read this book, who's gonna pick up this book, any boy who's gonna pick up this book, it's gonna be like a book that would guide them toward manhood.
Awesome. Awesome.
Mm.
Thank you for sharing that with us. We'll talk a little bit more about the book, hopefully, when we come back.
Absolutely.
We're just going to take a break soon, folks, and we'll be back with some more questions for Takudzwa.
I just want to tie in the surge, well, plugged into the surge at Meadowvale. Whatever challenges you're having, whatever obstacle, remember, you can overcome it. You can beat it. With God, beyond the sky is the limit. Keep it right, keep it real, keep in tune, keep plugged in to Jesus, and you can beat whatever trials you're facing. Remember this, there is no passion, none whatsoever, to be found in playing small, settling for a life than that which you're capable of living. To the host of UpSurge in Meadowvale, Pastor Duncan, keep it right, keep the surge real.
to UpSurge, where the surge is always up. So we are here again with our guest, Elder Tukudzwa from Meadowvale. Before we left, he was telling us a little bit about his book.
Yes.
So tell me a bit more. I wanted to know, actually. Did you find yourself, changing a little bit as you were writing the book? Did you find yourself kind of dealing with emotions, dealing with different feelings? How did you find that experience of being vulnerable?
It was like revealing, to be honest. Like I found out a lot by myself in that process, because when you're writing, you're looking for content, right? You're looking for things to write about your life, and I had to dig deep. I had to open up in some areas that I was really vulnerable on opening up on, do a deep search, a deep soul search of myself, and just find out some of the things that I was struggling with, some of the things that I was dealing with, even from before, that were resurfacing up now. It just gave me that view I never really thought was there. So the process itself, sometimes I'll find oh my gosh, I need to write about this. I need to put this in. So it has been a journey, actually. It has really been a journey of trying to share my story, but also learning about myself at the same time.
That's amazing. That's amazing. It's great to see a young man being vulnerable and articulating how he feels. What do you plan to do with the book? From the beginning, the whole idea has been sharing my story. And I feel like I've done that. And the editing phase of the whole thing. And I want this book to be to reach out to the right person who's looking for it. That is the reason why I wrote this book. I wrote this book for the boy who's struggling, no dad growing up, has struggled all of his life looking for somebody to the audience that I'm writing to. Absolutely.
To let them know, look, there is light at the end of the tunnel, right? But in order to navigate this whole thing, you're gonna need to take you're gonna need to arrive past that threshold.
Absolutely. That's amazing. Community work, specifically with young men, branch ministries. So could you tell us a bit more about that, and maybe how your book would impact what you're doing?
Absolutely. So branch came again from trying to discover, right, this journey, this masculine journey, right? But in many cases we don't know, right? As young men, it's hard, you barely sometimes have a conversation with your pops. But as a father, it's a responsibility that God has put on you in order to show your son how you actually have to be a man. In what way can you be a man? There are a lot of men out there who don't know how to love properly, who don't know how to be vulnerable, feelings, they don't know how to as a result, you have a lot of broken relationships between father and sons, and father and daughters. You have a lot of that stem from these years as a boy, right? You need to know how to communicate properly with your future. You need to know how to articulate your feelings and how you're feeling. So this is what seeks to achieve, to connect with older guys, right? The guys who have walked the ropes before, who have head and can give whatever knowledge they can give. If you have an addiction, for example, we talk about addictions to pornography. This is a whole lot of it's a whole lot of subject that is there,
Yeah.
right? But it's there. But sometimes we like to pretend like it's not there. And a lot of boys, a lot of men are plagued with this, with this sin of pornography.
Yeah.
How do we move past that? Like, as a young boy, you're trying to like figure that out, but constantly, half naked and whatnot, and whatever it is,
Yeah.
and the things that you watch and the things that you put before your eyes, and all I get as a man to the point where I view my wife as somebody that is just simply for my pleasure only.
Yeah.
So I think we have to explore at a very tender age, and in order to do that, like, like, first of all, you're gonna like have to do men that are loving,
Yeah.
that are like Christ, right? You have to explore that whole like scenario and sort of like build like a map, like
Yeah.
chart it out and
Yeah.
figure out how you're gonna proceed.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So that's what we're doing a bit. I shout out to Richard, shout out to Jabs as well. Like these are the guys that I've been working with.
Amazing.
But hopefully we get to do some work post COVID.
Hopefully. What are some things you did before COVID?
Man, like we went like different places.
Yeah.
Went to a bunch of places. We're speaking at a bunch of places. Got some awesome reviews.
That's
we were
awesome.
planning actually this year to do some, because like the thing about men is like they like doing, boys and men, we like doing like hands-on stuff. So
Yeah.
we were planning some trips before COVID hit. We're planning like things that we wanted to do in the community, like and so these are the things that like Branch is gonna aim to like fulfill, like especially after this COVID crisis. So Rich and Jabs, we're gonna work.
Awesome. I'm looking forward to seeing what you guys put forward.
Yes.
So you are graduation for paralegal education.
Yes.
So tell me a little bit about your school journey.
Well, so man, like it started like it's been up and down, to be honest with you.
Everyone's is. It's okay.
Man, like I started. First of all, I didn't go to university immediately. To university, like a year after I graduated from high school,
Okay.
and like the wait was like I feel like I needed the wait.
Yeah.
And then that's why I went to Brock,
Okay.
and then I did a year. Experience that like just I don't know how to explain it other than it taught me that this you needed to
Yeah.
because it's not a joke.
It's very true. Very true.
So I didn't flunk out because I did well in my first year, but so good.
Okay.
There were some classes that I didn't take.
Yeah.
That I needed to take, so I was put on academic probation.
Okay.
And then I ended up like not going the following year, so I ended up applying to the paralegal program at Sheridan.
Okay.
And then I got into Sheridan, and then there was that college strike that happened. Like when
Oh
I was,
my goodness.
like, and then all of a sudden, I was like, you know what? I don't even want to go to Sheridan anymore.
Oh,
So I
wow.
stopped, and I've been at Humber ever since.
Wow.
And now I'm finally at the position where I'm able to graduate.
Mhm.
I'm doing summer school right now because I just want to get it over with.
That's awesome.
So yeah, this is where I'm at. Like.
All right. So, big question for
Yeah.
you. Do you feel like you found your purpose?
Yes and no.
Yes and no.
I would say no first because I feel like I'm still learning. There are a lot of things that I'm figuring out. Like a lot of things that I'm learning. Like as I go.
Yeah.
So I have not like figured out like the like that thing that I want to like make clear. Like the yes part of it is that I have a passion of sharing the gospel, the true gospel,
Yeah.
and that shows I have a passion of sharing. So I feel like, everything that has happened in my life leading up to this point has preparing me to be able to reveal to the world how awesome and how amazing he is.
Had to share one thing with our viewers really, really quick,
Mhm.
what would it be? One message.
One message would be trust God. We all run in separate lanes. Whatever lane you're in, there is a reason why you're in that lane, and God is going to be able to pull you through. Absolutely.
After the break, we'll have Pastor D interviewing our next guest. This is UpSurge, where the surge is always up.